Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. And if you're not already subscribed on YouTube, go to YouTube, search Sports Card Lessons Podcast, and hit that subscribe button. Welcome, and thanks for being here. Today's episode, back for a second time, is my man Jordan from Zips Cards. Jordan, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well, just golf today. Got back. Actually, I got into golf from National, which is kind of funny and card related. I didn't even think about. I did a deal at National. I sold a card and then I got a set of golf clubs in that deal. So I used those clubs today out on the course. Yeah, I don't even know if you knew that.
No, so you made a deal
Yes.
with cards and it came with a set of golf clubs.
Yep. It was a Jalen Hurts Panini 1 RPA. It was like it was at a 99. It was like a quad patch, an on-card auto. So nice card. And I sold it. I got like 800 cash and then a set of clubs because I need a set of clubs.
What kind of clubs?
It's like a fairly decent beginner starter kit. Like, right, the comps value on eBay, it looks like they sell anywhere from 350 to 500. So
Nice.
yeah,
Oh.
I mean, and I needed a set of clubs, so it was perfect. I'm sure you could imagine where I got that deal done too. I'm sure you can imagine who.
Was it my man Vince? Your man Vince? Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
So
It was basically like he just like was helping me get a set of clubs, and he really wanted the Jalen Hurts card. So he was like, "Hey, I know you needed clubs." I was talking to him, so it was cool. But yeah,
how'd you hit him today? It was what, like 90 degrees out today
it
all
was
day.
it was hot. It was hot. I hit overall well. I mean, like, I played baseball through college, so I just did not swing a golf club, and like, because I was just always afraid to mess up my swing, even though I don't think that's too real looking back on it now. But so this was like my first time golfing since I was like 13 or 14 when I used to go with my grandfather, and overall I did pretty well. I mean, all three of my friends that I went with, they go pretty regularly, and I think I was like a couple strokes behind them. I think I was like three.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like 3 strokes behind them, and I had the farthest drive of the day, and overall I surprised myself, so it was good. Probably won't do that good next time. So
You know what it is too, and just touch on it briefly because I started very late. I only started playing golf like 3 or 4 years ago, or it's about 4 years ago now. And one of the things is when you're starting out and you're playing what people know what they're doing, like there's no pressure, right? You're like, I've never done this before, and I just got these clubs, and no matter how well you're hitting, I'm just going to swing away and do the best I can. And I find that when I first started, I did pretty well. And then when I started really starting to think about playing the game and everything, the actual game itself, and then I started getting in my own head and pressures and everything else, things started to fall apart. And then it was all of a sudden I had to learn how to play the game again with pressure, so
yeah.
but yeah, I'm glad it worked out. And now that I know, we're definitely have to go play.
Absolutely. Let me know. Yeah, let me know.
So you just mentioned the National. You can't coming out of National. It's just been a few weeks away. I don't want to ask about your overall experience because I know at your booth, you got shortchanged at the table of your positioning at the table, but not to get into that, but just the overall National, the experience. How was it for you? Just your thoughts on it and kind of your thoughts moving forward.
I mean, even taking into account my prime real estate, no, but overall it was good. Like, even with that being said, overall it was a positive. Like, I learned a lot. I think that's I learned a lot, and I still, like, for what we had to deal with the adversity, I mean, like, we still came home with a lot of cash. Like, so it wasn't bad in that regard too. Like, it could have been better, right? Like, you could always say it could have been this, could have been that. Like, and if that was like us, dealing with that and like not failing, but if it went wrong and it ended up as that's the result, it's still a good result for it going wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So overall good. I mean, I think the main thing was like the things I had compared to what I should have had is like some of my higher end stuff should have been different brands. That's what I saw. Cause like you look at some of these dealers and it's like, do they even like sports? Do they even know? Like, you just don't even know. You just know they have NT, Flawless, Optic. It's like they don't even care who the player is. It's like they have these brands and it's like, yeah, just throw it in there. And yeah, it's really crazy to think about that. It's like you could have the right players, but if it's not the right card or right set, um, it won't move automatically.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. If that makes sense.
Yep, absolute. Because if you remember, uh, I talked about being in Atlantic City, right? And talked about, the inventory I had, and I felt it was the wrong inventory, just kind of like what you're saying now. So when I put my plan together, moving, into this year, into Chicago, I talked about handpicking all these certain cards. And you
Mhm.
saw what those cards were. I showcased these cards, and I still had people say, wow, that's some unbelievable cards. And some other people said, hey, you still have to sell those cards. I was still getting comments like, those cards are great, but you still have to sell them. And I knew going out there, these were the cards that people were going to want to buy.
Right.
And I had to put out my own personal thought, right? No matter how I felt about a card, thinking like this is a great card and people should love this. No, like I went out and bought a ton of Joe Burrow because I know people were going to buy him, right? A bunch of Patrick Mahomes, but not just, they weren't low end. They were, medium and maybe a little higher, but they were the sets that people wanted. And I just knew from the year before the cards. So, and I understand what you're trying to say. If I thought the National Treasure cards would move, which they were, I think would have been priced too high on a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow or a Trevor Lawrence, something like that. Those cards are just priced too high. And I felt that those would be out of reach for most of the people coming to my table at the National, right?
Mhm.
So what you're saying, absolutely true. It was, even though you may have had the right players, you may have not had the right cards. And
Right.
so just talk to me a little bit now. I just told you what happened to me 1 year to 2 years setting up. Talk to me your thought coming home, thinking about Cleveland. Like if you're able to set up again in Cleveland, like what are your thoughts about now? What you would do with for your inventory?
Yeah. So I mean, number one, and I know you saw it, and I don't know if you knew what was going on exactly behind you with my buddy Vince, our buddy Vince. You know what's hotter than football at the National? Baseball. At least in my opinion. I mean, he had Bowman, right? And Bowman's this as prospective as it gets. Like, you got 17-year-old guys playing the Dominican Summer League, and then they're not even stateside playing, and they're selling for thousands of dollars, right? So it's even more prospective than quarterbacks and whatever. But I mean, quarterbacks are still it's in demand there. It's not like, I'm not saying that. It's just something different I would do for next year, and what I think is in a lot of people's price ranges rather than like the NT stuff, is I really saw how liquid quarterbacks, like the Optic, not the Donruss, and which I'll get right into that because it's so funny. I had that. Well, I still have that Trevor Lawrence orange Donruss rated rookie PSA 1010. Had people telling me I was undervaluing it. Right, I was trying to move it for like 17 to 2,000, and people like, that's easily 2,500 since there's no other 10s, and I'm like, great, so this is a deal. You should love this card, right? No, but like his PSA 9 Optic stuff, just it's that Optic is that set at National. I think if I was to do it again, would be to try to get some of those Optic, the rated rookie autos. I think those are really, really nice.
Yeah. And even not the rated rookies, but just like some of those Optic cards, just the Optic rookie cards, right? And
Yeah,
I think most people, the consensus is they just love the way those cards look, the way they pop, even when they're in the case. Like for me to even have them in my case, or even when I walk around, I notice those cards right away.
they're great.
They just stand out. So yeah, definitely with Mahomes, right, and Burrow and even Josh Allen, things like that. I mean, these cards they stand out. They really catch people's eyes.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, the guys that we were set up with, Joku, they had all the, they were even a step ahead. They had some football, but they had a lot of basketball too, and like
Yep.
it's almost like playing that cycle of what are people going to be buying for the future. And I feel like they had a lot of people coming up doing deals with them for that stuff too. And I thought that's brilliant, right? Like they're just thinking ahead. And so for me, like I had just kind of sold out. I'm like, I'm doing football, just you know, just and it was in demand, and I sold a ton of it. Whether it was just at the table, walking around, trade nights, you sell your stuff everywhere. It's not just in one spot there. It's just I pretty much think if you have an in demand player at National though, like someone's gonna want it there. I don't even
Yeah.
know if it's like it's just if you have the right set and the right player, I don't think the sport really does matter
Yeah.
actually there because there's gonna be someone.
And I think important too is be able to find comps on these cards. The cards that I was left with, I say was left with was
Oh yeah,
more
pop
my
ones are so cool all of a sudden, right? No,
yeah,
no.
no, I mean, when people love the cards that, they come up and they love the cards, but when they're trying to comp the card and they can't get it, the last comp was a year and a half ago, and they just can't see, even though Card Ladder says, this card is a 33 or $3,400 card, and they see a year and a half ago it sold for 2,000. They just can't make that. They can't make that purchase. They're willing to trade up into it, but and I kind of understand that too, because nobody wants to get stuck with a card, especially a 3,000 or a $3,500 card, and then find out,
Oh yeah,
it may, may only be worth 2,000 or 2,500, or not worth it, but that's maybe what all somebody's going to pay for that card, right? So
yeah,
those cards, even like yours, that's the Lawrence, that's a 10 of 10. It's a beautiful card, but if there's no comps on it, people are afraid to.
right, right,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I was just thinking how funny it would be if someone just, as we're talking about this, they just have an entire case of quarterback optic hollows and only. You know what I mean? Like like honestly, I bet that'd go really well. Like
Yeah.
people because they're just so in demand, so easy to move. They're comp, but yeah, just optic hollows, like all quarterbacks, a whole showcase. You'd probably do great.
Yeah, yeah. And
Probably do.
and again, like what I did last year is I started early. I started shopping early. And as I bought these cards, I just put them away. I never took them to shows. I sold other things at shows. So that worked for me. I got a lot of people, and this is a great transition. I get a lot of people asking me, like, realistically, how do you make money doing this? Like, especially in national, right? Where, now you're plane tickets and hotel rooms, and, there's food and there's everything involved. And I think in some ways we have to chalk some of this expense up to a vacation, right? Where if we were going to go to the beach, or we're going to go to, Las Vegas or Disney World or whatever, I mean, these would be like vacation. This would be vacation expenses, buying meals, staying in a hotel, things like that. So I don't think we can come out and say, like, you know, all the money that's being made at the show is, compensating for every single thing we have. But for someone like me who bought the cards early and have a decent percentage, I'm able to talk about that. I'm able to tell people this is how it worked for me. I bought the card at, say, at the time it was 100% comps, but by the time we got to July, that comp is now 120 or 130%. So even if I sell it at, you know, whatever the 90% comp is, I'm still making money on it, right?
Yeah,
But
and
oh,
that
go
almost
ahead.
seems to be a lost art today is holding, right? Like truly, it's like everyone wants to quick flip stuff. If you're
Yeah.
trying to make money, you think of the quick flip. I mean, you look at all the a bunch of the big YouTubers, and it's let me buy this and get rid of it before it's in my hand. Let me almost drop ship this card to someone,
Yeah.
and
Hot
it's just
potato. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I talked to some of the big guys there that I got to talk to and really understand how they do it, and it's like, yeah, they're buying things, holding them, and then cashing in on them when they can. Some of it's timing with the market, but some of it's like, I've been doing this since the 90s, and it's
Yeah.
so I think that's something that people don't talk about enough, and it's
Mm.
something that I want to do a little bit more. And I have a couple. I know you had sent me some earlier about some questions about later that we'll talk about some guys and stuff. And there's a couple people that I feel that way about, and I think it's something that, as well as having the quick flips and stuff, you should be able to, hopefully, if you're able to get like a bankroll where you can put a card away to hold for a bit, then do it. Most recently would be Otani stuff has blown up. Even like you could have bought it when the season started and it's blown up.
Yeah.
So you're talking not a long-term hold either. I mean, you could also just buy him now and hold him forever, and I wouldn't question that either. So, but that's something that I think, especially my generation too, it's like that instant gratification with everything, and it's just like in our society, everything's just immediate, and it's just like you need to hold some stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
go ahead. Sorry,
I was going to say, you could tell, and not even cards, you could tell. You walk into a convenience store, right? I mean, they have like 150 scratch tickets. They have like 35 instant games off the computer, and you see people in there like just like, I mean, that it's almost that instant that's what it reminds me of sometimes, just that instant gratification that people, it's like a lost art to buy a lotto ticket and wait till Tuesday to see if you won, right? And wait for the drawing. That it's being, people are knowing immediately if they're winners or not. And for someone like me, I purchased like Bowman Chrome, Bowman Mega boxes, the 2021, 2022, and took out all the first Bowmans, right? And just put them in a box, top loaded them, put them away. I did the same thing with hockey, the upper deck hockey. I took all the young guns, right? And top loaded them, put them away. So now here we are, 2023. I'm going back through that now. Right. So I think I have a good grip on the baseball players who I'm probably through this winter are going to grade those cards, right, and have them available in the spring. And the hockey now, I'm going through the hockey to see who I could grade now, moving into this fall, that I'll be, coming back and be putting on my table. Right.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to say financially, right? Did it pay off or didn't it pay off? Because I bought these boxes. I made the investment in these boxes 2 and 3 years ago, right? And now I'm pulling the players out. But to me, it's like an investment that I spent that money. I put all these cards aside. Somebody, every year, for every draft year, somebody's paying off, right? There's at least 1 or 2 or 3 players in there that are going to pay off, whether the timing is right. I may only pull like the baseball a few cards out now, and maybe 2 years from now, somebody else may pop, and it'll be good. But it's hard to tell on that investment. So I'm going to throw this question back at you because you do this more quickly. You buy a lot of raw cards, right? And then you grade these cards and you do pretty well on these cards. And it's not the quick flip. It's not the instant gratification, right? Because it's 30, 40 days, 50 days off to PSA, right? From you purchase it, you prep it, you send it, and they come back. But if you had just to talk about percentages, like I don't know if you put much thought into what your percentages are if you buy this card at a certain amount, and do you know right away, look, if this comes back a 9, I can get this much, and it comes back a 10, I get that much. It makes sense to me. And you also say, if this comes back a 9, I've lost money. So it's a 10 or bust. So I don't know if you could just talk to me a little bit about, what goes through your mind and what kind of percentages you look at that you think are worthwhile for you.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I'll probably answer that with a reference if you don't mind. There's a great channel on YouTube called PC Sports Cards. You've probably heard of them. They're out of Long Island. They do something which is pretty cool as a consigner. You can send cards to them to get graded. They'll come back. They never charge you for grading, and they'll immediately run those cards back from grading on eBay. And then when all's said and done, they'll take out the eBay fees and your grading fees and just send you money. So like, right. And they send out, they're like they might be the biggest PSA like bulk submitter. And they talk about that of like, okay, so this card, the gem rate is like 30%. So you need to hit so many 10s for it to make worthwhile. And it's like tough. So for me, when I was first starting out with my business partner Matt, like when we were trying to just create that bankroll, I was buying like $5 non-number refractors of a lot of the Topps Chrome like soccer guys, because I think Topps Chrome is a pretty safe set to grade. I think Topps, probably a lot of people would agree with this, is overall, besides like I know the F1 product has some condition issues, and then Bundesliga Topps Chrome 2020, which I know really well, has some condition issues. But overall, Topps, I think, does a way better job with quality control than Panini. Just my opinion. So, like, you could start out with cards. If you can know the set and know what you're looking for to grade it, to give you a shot to gem, I think that's a good way to go about it, because then you're going to gem more if you know the set. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, and you can look at, even, so I do a lot. I look at pop counts all the time on cards.
Yep.
So even if I see a raw card that I may say, oh, maybe I'd like to grade this, I'll go back and look at the pop counts. Is the PSA 10 like, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 or 10,000, or is it a couple hundred? Because at a couple hundred, right, I know there's probably a good chance that most of those cards are not going to gem. So I have to really look at those cards, right?
Right. So when I try to buy a raw card, I mean, now when I'm doing it, I kind of have a feel, so I don't worry too much. But like when I'm trying to buy a card, if I really like it and I think it really looks good, and I know, like, if I can't break even at a 9, usually I won't do it. There's some instances, right, where it's like, if I have a good outlook on this guy, then sure, and it's going to 9 and I'll take it anyways. But for the most part, I want to be able to, if I buy the raw card and it comes back a 9, I'll at least like make like $20 after on a 9. Yeah. And then and I say that, but that also gets tricky too when they're super cheap cards too. Like, so I don't have an exact percentage. Like, I just know it, and I'm kind of actively just doing it, but I don't have a specific number in mind, because also there's cards that I'll just look at and I think look great, and the guy I'm trying to buy it off won't budge. And I've paid full comps, if not a little over full comps, and I've gemmed it and made really good money still, because, so it really is case by case. And I can't tell you which cards that do or don't apply, but if I'm looking at it in person and I feel good, like if I feel really good about it, I will pay up,
And I know that you prep most of your cards that go, and you're pretty good at prepping the cards that go. Do they all need to be prepped? I mean, is there any cards that you get out and say, man, this just looks great? I'm just
all the time. Yeah. They don't all need to be prepped. And some at the very least, you just need like a wipe down with a microfiber and it's good.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So I
so
know I've gone out and I've bought in the oversized magnifying glass, and
yeah, you should.
and I look at the cards and some of these I'm like, and I belong to PSA, right? So I say I belong to it. I bought into that year
The collectors
subscription.
club membership. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like 15 or 18 bucks or nine, whatever it is. They do the deals. And sometimes on cards, I'll like, yeah, I don't know, but for 15 bucks, it's worth a shot, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and and,
And they'll
and that,
miss stuff. They will. I mean,
yeah,
overall, they're good. And I shouldn't say good. Overall, they're great at their job, which may catch some flack. But like overall, they really do a good job if you're looking grand scheme of the millions of cards they grade and that they grade accurately.
yeah,
So like, but you or me may overanalyze something tiny that we see, or you may see something that looks like print line. Here's one that a lot of people don't know is like if you look at the front of like some Topps Chrome speckle cards, it almost looks like there's like a like crosses through it, like a grid. So there it is. I was thinking grade, like a grid through the front of the card, but that's just part of the design, and that doesn't affect anything on the grade. And people will look at it and like, oh my god, look at these horrible print lines. This is going to get like a 7. No, it's absolutely fine.
Yep.
And there's like so like knowing the set and knowing certain things like that. Another thing is like and something that a lot of lower end cards like Mosaic. So they'll have the print lines on the back. There's a threshold of where that print line doesn't matter, and it's hard. I can't tell you what that threshold is, not because I don't want to. It's because you have to grade on your like I sent like a bad one on purpose to know what that is right for the knowledge at $15 or whatever.
Yep.
And it got an 8, and I was like, okay. And then I've sent some that I'm like, all right, I'm gonna remember this, and then it got like a 9, and I'm like, okay, so this is what a 9's about to be, and then it's just you can only tell someone so much rather than sometimes you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I know on one of those Trinity Rodman cards you were looking at with me, and you said, well, there's print lines on the back, and you said the best thing you could do, right, is go online, find a couple of PSA 10s of that card, and then look on the back of that card and see if that print line.
see if you can see it, right?
Yeah, so there were a number of the cards I'm like, well, I'm just not going to grade it because I can see this one print line in there, and then there were a couple of PSA 10s that I went up and looked and actually had that same line on there. So I said, okay. So I sent 6 of them in, right? And 2 came back 10s.
Right. Yeah. So and then it gets to how deep are those lines? Do those lines start to indent the card, or are they faint and just like in the clear coat or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's you have to just do it yourself to see it and know. That's the best way I can explain it.
And I know I asked you, I think I asked you this on the last one. Have you ever figured out your success rate at 10 gems and 9s and, what of submitting, because you've been submitting so many cards?
Yeah. So overall, when I was looking back like this week, actually, we're right around, so on each order, we're going to be anywhere from like 70 to 75% gem rates, which is I'll take. That's fine.
I find I know this sounds stupid, but I find the more cards I send, the more 10s I get.
Hey,
right. So I think they're like, I think they say to themselves, well, this guy's paying for 30 cards. Let's give him 10 10s or let's give him 9 10s or whatever. And those 10s, will pay for the sub, pay for the cards, and pay for so much more if I sell a couple, if I get to sell. So at a point where I'm like, do I just send 1 or 2 or 3? Because it seems like when I send just a couple cards in, the last 3 times I sent 2 cards in, one came back at 10, one came back at 9, right? So I'm like, okay, so they're just saying 50-50 here, and then this is the way my mind works, right? So then I send 10 cards in, I get 4 10s, 4 9s, and 2 8s, right? And I'm like, okay, so they're just under 50%. So, why don't I just send 25 or 30 cards in, right? And now I'm going to get 15 10s. So the more cards I send, and it does it work out that way? It does for me, right? So I figure I'm always just slightly under 50% of gemming.
I remember a while back when you sent in all those like celebrity autos, like almost all of them 10, right?
Yep, yep.
That
Every
was great. That I
everyone.
mean, that's saying that Leaf, I guess, makes good quality stuff at the very. I mean, of the card at least. Like
Yeah,
that's
yep,
kind of impressive. I remember it was crazy. It was like
yep.
all of them 10, right?
Yep, every single one. I like 12 of them came back. But that was part of an order of 70 cards too,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So it wasn't just them by themselves. That's when
Oh, okay.
I sent all those music cards in too.
Right.
So it just wasn't that, but I was happy to get those, get those all to gem. And here again, they were all pop ones, right? PSA 10, and I still have a handful of them, but they're hard to sell. Of all the pop culture cards that I had, those Pop Century Celebrity Autos were the hardest cards to move, and I thought those were going to be the easiest cards to move. They were all the other pop culture stuff has moved so much easier than those for whatever reason. And I don't know, it's because Leaf comes out with, you know, take one particular star and they've got like this auto, and there's one of one, one of three, one of five, one of seven, one of 10, one of 15, one of 20, one of 49, one of 99, one of 190, and I think so when you're looking at the same card and you just all of a sudden see, well, this card sold for $125. Well, that card there was one of 199 and it was a, PSA 10, but my card is a two of three and it's a PSA 10. So
Right. Especially since like with those cards too, it's not like, oh, what's his name? Peter Dinklage is going to go out and throw 40 touchdowns this year. Like that. So that's another thing too, is like the people buying those that like they love the actor and like I could just be guessing like if there's all those parallels, it'd be like how many autos of Peter Dinklage you need. Someone may need all of them. I don't know, but
yeah,
like
yeah,
someone
yeah,
may want that one out of 90 or whatever because it's the cheapest
yeah.
and that works for them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
And
know.
and if I had my way, would I really want to be selling a Peter Dinklage, auto? But when you're buying the box for like $300 and it comes out, that's the card you're grading
I
and
mean, he's
putting up
pretty
for sale.
cool.
Yeah,
I'm a big Game of Thrones fan, so he's great.
yeah,
Like he's great. That was my favorite one I saw out of all of them. You probably remember that. I always came up and I was like, I love that Peter
yeah,
Dinklage.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I ended up selling that online. I
I
think I
believe it.
sold that,
I
ended
believe
up
it.
selling it on eBay. And in fact, the last time it was the Super Bowl, the day of the Super Bowl, I went down to the Little Hofstra show, and I just happened to walk up on a table, and the guy had a box of, a sealed box of the Rittenhouse Game of Thrones cards,
Cool.
and it hadn't even been opened up. And I just said, "What do you?" He go, and he looked at me, and he's like, "Wow, nobody's asked me about him. Has anybody seen that?" I mean, I made a deal with him as fast as I could, and I just bought the box. It's sitting up here in the office. I've never opened it, but I just think it was,
Aren't those are like I mean the autos out of those, if that's the original one, those are like crazy expensive, right?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a guaranteed. I think there's guaranteed one auto and one inscription in
Cool.
this hobby box.
Cool.
Uh, but I think it's worth more unopened than opened, right? I
Probably.
mean,
It could be like a super high end collector's item and like a long.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even I talked about having those Bowman mega boxes.
Did you sell those?
I did. I did. I sold all those boxes to one person.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was happy, to pay over double what I paid for those,
Oh
and
yeah.
it was his offer to me. It wasn't my offer to him. So I was happy to move all those boxes. And you were telling me, you got to rip those boxes and look for Ellie Dela Cruz. And
Yeah, man.
but I mean, to me, it was, money in the bank just selling the.
Yeah, that works. That works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So. I know you had asked me earlier, and we had talked a little bit about the women's soccer, before we came on, and I said we should just save this for when we're on. But I mean, I think the prices are probably going to come down on some of the players, but I know personally from being in all these groups that there is a huge following of women's soccer and the NWSL and not right away because I'm always trying to buy Trinity Rodman, and I have not seen her prices drop yet, nor Sophia Smith or Alex Morgan. So nobody's prices have dropped down yet. So I think they're going to hold.
Yeah,
I
and I'm very like I didn't really dabble at all into women's soccer until I was at the Mohegan show and I saw a Trinity Rodman night moves and I bought it and it got a PSA 10 and I was like, cool. So I
beauty.
have that, and then they lost, and I was like, oh, because I was in no rush to put that card up on eBay or anything. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
they'll probably just win a third in a row, and
Yeah. In their own defense, the team that beat them, Sweden is right now is favored to win. So, they were a good team. And
yeah,
I was just watching, this weekend, all these games going to penalty kicks, and it's just when you get deep into penalty kicks after 4, 5, 6 players and you're into 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, you're at the bottom of the bench, people kicking. Those games could go either way.
oh
You
yeah,
know, you know what I found amazing is on every single one of these that the goalie ends up coming out and kicks the penalty kick. I just thought that was awesome
that
because
was funny.
coming from hockey, you would never see a goalie go down and take a penalty shot, at the end. So
I remember watching it was Chelsea and Liverpool, I believe, and me and my friends we were at the sports book at Mohegan, and it went to penalty kicks. It was like I forget, it was some like mid-season cup like a couple years ago, and it went all the way down to the keepers, like all 10. There was not one missed shot. And then the Liverpool keeper made it, and then Kepa, because my buddy is a Chelsea fan, just like shanked it after like 21 of the 22 players on the pitch scoring. That's got to be the worst.
yeah.
Every like 21 in a row were made, and then God, it's bad.
Uh, so speaking of players, who anybody you're big on now coming into the actually it's a two-part question. Who are you big on? And do you as far as being a dealer, do you switch up your product for the season? Do you stay with the same type of product all through the season? And who are you kind of prospecting, looking for right now coming into the fall?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a lot of we try to have some basketball when it comes to basketball season, and then probably buy football back again in like December when you see what the playoff picture kind of looks like.
Mm.
And I know it sounds like I'm not super enthusiastic about that because what what I've been looking at like big time is baseball. Like I really have. And it's not a shock. It's just there are three guys that I think you can hold or like this buy and hold thing. And if you buy them and hold, and this is not advice, there are three guys I really like. If you buy and hold till like March when spring training pops off, all the hype will be there. And it's Jackson Holiday, Jackson Churio, and Junior Caminero. And people can go do their research. I was talking to my friend yesterday. We were in the car home, coming home from somewhere, and I was like, yeah, this guy Caminero, he's hitting like 315 with 18 home runs. And I was like, look, let me just try to find a video clip of it. Because I looked at his stats Friday and I was talking about it Saturday. So I go and it says he has 21 home runs. And he just had a 3 home run game as I was talking about how great this guy is. Right. Yeah. So like he's a 20-year-old guy. He's a shortstop. I think he'll probably end up playing third for the Rays next to Wander. And he just has it, man. Like he's just fun to watch. He's good with kids. He's good with the crowd. And he's got that flair. He has this beautiful swing, and he's just awesome. And then Jackson Churio, he's in the Brewers organization. He kind of, for a lot of people, like came out of nowhere. He got drafted when he was like 17, and he was kind of getting slept on for a little bit, and he just had this huge rise last season. At the beginning of this season, he was ranked the #1 prospect in baseball, with before last season being out of the top 100 prospects. So he had this crazy run up, and he's like a 5-tool player. He just does everything. He's outfielder, and he's super exciting to watch. Same type of thing. And then Jackson Holliday, he was just the first overall pick, and he's Matt Holliday's son, who, if you remember, Matt Holliday used to play outfield for the Cardinals, and he's an all-star. He's a great player. And Jackson Holliday's in the Orioles organization, which is just loaded. And my teammate from high school was hitting behind him because he plays AA ball in the Orioles organization. And I was talking to him about Jackson Holliday, and this is like, me saying this doesn't mean anything because everyone knows Jackson Holliday is good. But like, my friend's like, oh yeah, he's absolutely legit. That I played high school ball, and it just, for me, it's just reassuring because I know TT, my friend in the Orioles organization, and it's just like those three guys, man. It's, in my opinion, it's kind of like it's safe when you buy a quarterback until the season starts. Like, you buy these guys and then the hype builds over the off season, and then the season comes and they're supposed to make their debut in 2024, all three of them. 2 are 19 and one's 20 years old. As a rookie in the MLB, it's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
But their stuff's not cheap, like, at all. It's not cheap. So
people are onto them already. It's not it's not like they're sleepers.
Right. And like, kind of Ellie, before he got called up, had a little dip, and then he just came up and played great, and he went to the moon, but he wasn't cheap either. So like, it doesn't always matter what their prices are at now. If it's high, they can go higher. Like, it's just like, you know what I mean? So it's just, yeah. I like those three guys. Those are the three guys that if I can just tuck away for the winter until spring training, I will. Those guys. Yep.
So what will you sell now going? Actually, I should say, what upcoming shows do you have? I think you're doing one in Portland, right? Portland, Maine.
Yeah, the end of September. So I have a cousin who lives in Freeport, Maine. I'm gonna stay up with him. It's the Northeast Sports Card Expo. You would actually send me about that. It's the one in Stamford. So I'm just booked for Stamford and Portland. And then when the tables go live for that Gillette Stadium show, I might do that because I couldn't get into Mohegan or the other Northeast Expo show, which I think is in Quincy.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I personally love when it comes to up here, I love the card vault shows.
And it's crazy that they have there's three shows on the same day, same weekend.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of people giving the card vault guys like crap about it. It's like they jumped on the way I see it is they jumped on an opportunity for the Patriots bye week. So like, if you get the opportunity, you have to do it. Like, it's the same thing of how they got the Fenway card show. It was like, it just, that's what it was.
And I think they're up against, like, I don't know much about the Quincy show, but I know, Card Vault has a location at Foxwoods.
Oh, it's Foxwoods, Mohegan, yeah.
Right. And Mohegan, Scott Skyup signings, he's doing his Mohegan show that weekend. And it's almost like Mohegan versus Foxwoods, but at Foxborough, that type of thing.
I mean, I grew up in the town of Mohegan, and it is very much Mohegan versus Foxwoods. They're always trying to compete with each other, and this is just another it's just another thing, really.
And I have listeners from all over the world, but all over the United States, and they talk about that they have to wait months for a show and drive like 5 hours to get there.
And we're talking about huge shows competing.
Competing that like if we could and left early enough, we'd be able to hit all three of them in one day.
Not to mention that Quincy show, I think, it's like a 200 table show.
Wow.
So like,
I don't understand. I don't know what Mohegan is. He's probably 200 So
Probably right around there. Yeah.
another 200, so that's 400. And card vault is usually what? It's got to be over that, right? 350 maybe. I mean, you're
I
talking
don't
about,
know, but like I love how Card Vault runs it.
yeah. Well, they have
Yeah.
a good draw too. They just,
Yeah, I could go to any Card Vault show and have a good time as an attendee or as a vendor. Like really.
yeah,
You set up one day at Fenway and I think you did pretty good, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and I missed the Foxwoods one. I was down in North
right.
Carolina with my grandkids.
Yeah, I
Uh,
went as I walked it and it was awesome. And
yeah,
everyone I was walking around was like, "This is the most I ever made at a show." Like everyone was saying that.
yeah, yeah.
So
And there's a big draw right out of Boston too, out of Massachusetts. I think Card Vault draws because people are familiar with them out of Massachusetts, out of Foxborough. But I don't know about now with the Quincy show. Is that going to affect? You know,
it may, but I mean, the one thing, and I'm not even trying to like pull for it. It's just a fact. Like it's at Gillette Stadium, which is pretty cool.
I know.
Like you know what I mean? Like
Hey,
the other
everybody's
one
a
was at
Patriot
Fenway.
fan in New England, right? So
Yeah, like I mean, you don't even have to like cards that much just to want to go and walk around. Like
yeah,
it's pretty
yeah,
cool. Like like I don't know. I grew up next to Mohegan, so like instead of going to hang out at the mall like in high school, like we would go to Johnny Rockets there and walk around like the shop. So like Mohegan's whatever to me at this point because I grew up right there. So you know Gillette though, like I'll go to Gillette because the Mohegan show is great. Like I'm not discounting it at all. It's a great show. I just like I mean I couldn't get in it, and if I want to set up somewhere, I'll go to Gillette. I guess if I
yeah.
can get a table there.
I've only been to Gillette once. I went on the Sunday night game. Mahomes versus Brady. That game that went to
That's a good one.
40-40 and went
Yeah.
to overtime. Yeah, yeah. I went there with my stepdaughter, and we went up. We went early, and we're like, we'll go early. We'll park. We'll go get something to eat. And I was just amazed at the amount of people that were there. We were like walking around, putting our name on every restaurant, trying to get in just to get a seat to sit
Right.
down and eat. So it was such a great. We did get to eat. It was a great experience. It's even though my Chiefs lost that night. And funny story, we have friends that have season tickets to the Patriots, and we were in the season ticket holders section of that. So it was, and she was a huge Patriot fan, and I'm a Chiefs fan, and of course, when the Patriots scored, the people in front of us turned around to high five, and my stepdaughter's like, "Don't high five him. He's a Chiefs fan."
That's funny. Yeah, and you know what? I've been to Gillette a bunch because growing up, I used to watch the U.S. men's national team. They used to play at Gillette a lot, so I'd see them, and then I used to go to some of the New England Revolution games growing up too. So I love the stadium. It's a great stadium. So I can only imagine what the show would be like there. I assume it'd be pretty good. I know everyone was in like an uproar about it. It looked like, and I'm just like, they got an opportunity that you just can't throw up. Like if you're Card Vault and it's your brand, and no one wants to think about it this way. If it's your brand, do you really care? Like I'm like, not that they hope the other shows do bad, but like you get an opportunity like that, like you take it.
Yeah.
Not to mention they have their shop at Patriot Place right there, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on, like
I mean, there's so many shows now overlapping,
yeah,
and I feel bad because on some of them, because I love the setup at all these shows, but I know, there's certain promoters that I'm just committed to. I've been doing their shows. They just pencil me in for every show, and now all of a sudden shows are going up against each other, and I have to choose. They're 2-day shows, and I have to choose. Am I going to this show or that show? And I really feel bad. I feel bad on both sides. I mean, I know maybe one show may be better than the other, but they're both great shows. And, my thought all the time is whatever I choose, it's wrong. If
yeah.
I choose this one, I should have been at that one. And if I choose that one, I should have been at this one. So we're really getting into that in this area. It's like, and here it was. And you and I were messaging this week. I'm like, where is there a show this weekend? I wanted to go to a show this weekend, and the only show I could go to was there was 2.5 hours away in Rhode Island and 2.5 hours away in Plainville, Long Island, right on Long Island.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a 5 hour round trip just to hit a show. That's too much, for me to do. But every other weekend from now until probably
It's loaded.
Thanksgiving
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
a show. Yeah.
I know. And like I've just been like, because we have the baby coming, we had a surprise baby shower, we have all this stuff going on. So you texted me about cards, and I was like, as I got back from National, I was like, I haven't thought about cards in like a week.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I kind of got to get back on it. And like, I actually I've been slacking a little. I have like 50, 60 cards I got to send out. Like,
Are you like me though? Are you going to PSA every day? Like, where's the deal?
Honestly, like I used to be, but like this, like I've just a lot going on. And then, yeah, life sometimes will just creep up on you out of nowhere, but I'm definitely not slowing down on cards. I just, these past 2 weeks have been chaotic. So I'm happy I got to come back on the show today, kind of recenter me, get me a little focus back to cards, because I have a nice stack of cards in the basement of a lot of Junior Caminero and Jackson Holiday that I need to send out to grading. So,
now that you've got them all, you're okay to talk about it. Now that you've got all your stash,
I got them. So yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, is like with these cards, it's just like I could grade them more, because like my goal is I'm probably holding those until next spring. So there's no rush to grade them, but all the other ones I gotta send out.
I set a good example for you about strong hands, holding cards.
Yeah, no, I mean,
right.
I really do. I think that's something that people don't do enough. I mean, some people do, but like enough people don't do it, and it's not even from the purist collector point of view. It's just like you could literally be leaving so much money on the table by not holding, if you want to look at it just as like financially, like, that's there too.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. So congrats on the upcoming baby.
Thank you.
You think that's going to change up your hobby at all, or
Probably will. That will be coming due date in early January. So when the new year happens, I'll have other priorities, obviously. So maybe the Caminero and Holiday I stack up on will hold me over in that January to March at the very least.
Yeah, it's funny because now, today, in today's day and age, you hear of all these the younger guys, having kids, and they don't even lose a step. Like literally just keep on going to the hobby. And I remember back, when I don't know how you guys do it. I just remember when kids started coming, my focus was, on so many other things that I just kind of, faded away in the hobby, and then came back in, when the kids were all grown up and out of the house type of
On
thing.
the bright side, though, you saying that, though, I think, because when did you have kids?
Back in the late 80s, early 90s.
The online presence to stay in the hobby, I feel like could make it a lot easier for someone who's going to have a kid now to stay relevant. I mean, Rob's had a couple kids, and he's super like he has the podcast. He's always involved in something cool with content. Like, I just think the ability to stay connected to the hobby somehow
from your home.
Right. Yeah. And like for me is I could just try to snipe eBay auctions as I'm at home, like, bottle baby eBay auctions. Like, you never know. I can get creative.
Now you sound like Rob.
Yeah. I could get creative with it too. So, but in terms of shows, that may slow down. But because Matt, he has his shop in downtown Mystic, and it's the summer, so super busy. The fact he was able to get out to National was great. But I told him, I was like, well, when January comes, it's going to be flip-flopping because I'm going to have the baby. So if there may be shows that you're just setting up at, and his son is great too, Griffin. So Griff can always help him out. But yeah, it'll probably be that. I'll probably be at home cleaning, submitting, and maybe Matt will just be bringing inventory everywhere and doing that. So have to adapt though.
Absolutely. Yep. And I'm sure you'll be fine.
Oh yeah. It's good stuff. It's good stuff to have to worry about, right? So
and getting into the fantasy football now, right?
Oh yeah.
It's just 100% in. It's funny that after last year, I was in like 6 teams last year, and I was always talking about them on the podcast, and doing all this stuff. Maybe it wasn't 6, maybe it was 4 teams, whatever I was in. But at the end of the year, I felt like I was run down. I was beat. I was like, I don't know if I can do that many teams next year, because it takes a lot of work to, you're in there going through all week long, seeing who you're gonna, if you need to pick people up and what you're gonna do and who you're gonna start. And then all of a sudden, it's nice because it's been just enough time off that people are starting to contact me. They're like, "You're in, right?" I'm like, "Oh, 100%." Like I'm all pumped to be in, and I've gotten into extra leagues, right? So
yeah, I'm in 3 now, and like for me, I think that's good. Like I feel like 3, especially because I'll talk about the league that we're in. We're starting that the dynasty league, which the dynasty technically never stops because like you can always trade draft picks in future draft picks and stuff, like, so it could be May and you get a update that you got a proposed trade for something, which is kind of crazy. It's cool. I'm interested to see how it goes. But yeah, I'm in like 3 this year, and I think if there's like another good one where like I know people and stuff, maybe I would do a 4th, but 3 for me sounds like my bandwidth to do that.
I have the 2 regular that I'm in. I'm doing one with content creators, and I'm going to do the dynasty one with you, which is like a whole new thing to me now.
Same.
I've been researching doing dynasty, because I've done, I've been doing fantasy football for like 15 years, 12, 15 years I've been doing it. So it's I know what I'm not going to say I'm good at it. I just know what I'm doing. I've done it. I've done it long enough, but I've never done the the dynasty. So I've definitely been researching that a little bit too, but it's fun. I look forward to it.
Yeah. And it's just something that's a little different, and like it's cool. Like you can have way like different strategies. Like you could draft for the future. You could draft to win now. You could draft kind of half and half.
Yeah.
I feel like probably that even approach is the best, but it's so crazy to think like a lot of these dynasty rankings have like Bijan Robinson 3rd overall, and it's just like
hasn't even taken an NFL snap.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool because I used to play, on the computer back in 2000, 2001, 2002. I used to play the Madden, Madden football, and that was part of the game, right? You would sit there and go through a draft, and you would just pick a team that it was pretty much a dynasty team, right? And then every year at the end of the season, some guys would go up, some guys would go down, depending on age and things like that. So that's really, I went from there into fantasy football. That was kind of like my gateway into fantasy football from that game. So yeah,
if you love fantasy football, dynasty is super appealing. Like honestly, you know what I mean? Like it's also pressure though. Like you're like married to that guy unless you are trading away, or like you know what I mean? Like you're not just picking this guy for a season. Like he's on your team. Like he's on your team for as long as the league runs. So So yeah, we'll see. Because I'm slotted at 3rd overall pick, and if Bijan falls to me, I don't know if I'm taking Bijan
at 3.
A lot of pressure.
And if people don't know, like if people are doing it who don't know, I mean, no matter what, they're stuck into like the yearly fantasy where they're going for all the top studs, and not thinking about this is my team moving forward. So I'm picking a
Yeah.
guy that is a rookie, but I'm hoping that the problem too, though, right? With running backs, there's no shelf life for them. You look at these players today, they're just dropping off, after 2, 3, 4 years. They're
And
just
now you have the contract issue.
yeah.
So like you have these guys who may be sitting out in their prime, like
Yeah.
in one like they're some of their most relevant, for fantasy football purposes, their most relevant year. And it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm just gonna
Well,
sit out for my contract. And it's like,
hopefully
well,
they'll learn from Le'Veon Bell. All right.
he got paid. He got paid though, like didn't he? He got paid from the Jets,
Yeah,
even
he
though
got
he
paid
didn't
from
come
the
back and
Jets, but
perform.
he
But
still missed the whole year, and he was terrible when he got to the Jets, and then he went to the Chiefs, and he was even worse on the Chiefs. So,
yeah, I think
I think
didn't he say he wishes he didn't do it too?
yeah, he
Yeah.
wishes he just took the franchise tag and just played the year. But,
Yeah, and I've honestly been thinking about like because you're at 5 in our league. Because I made sure for everyone listening, I made sure that I was like, hey, commissioner, this is new to all of us doing Dynasty. Let's just put it out so we can strategize and drive ourselves crazy for 2 weeks to see who we're gonna take on our draft. So we have that draft position, and it's like I know we were talking about. It's like, well, do you just take a quarterback that you think's going to be good for a long time? Because like you probably have Mahomes for at least 10 years of just Mahomes. And that's pretty valuable. Like, I know you were saying that, and my buddy who has the first overall pick was like, do I just take Mahomes? And it's like, well, everything else would say to take Justin Jefferson. But if you want to take Mahomes, I'm not going to bat an eye at that. I get it.
Yeah.
I think it's as safe as it's going to get for a pick, at least. It may not be the best pick, but safety wise,
the problem is if you have the first overall pick, you're picking one, and then you don't get to pick again until 20.
right.
So
Right.
on a 10 team or 24 on a 12 team. So there's a lot of people lost in 20 and 24 picks by the time it gets back to you. There's really nobody sexy left.
Yeah, and by the time it gets back, the top tier quarterbacks are gone. And for Dynasty, like, I mean, someone I was hoping would fall to me on the second time around for 3 is Jalen Hurts, and I don't think that will happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and even if you pick Mahomes at first, who are you picking second? Like you're picking a second tier, running back or wide receiver. So if that's where you want to base your team around, then pick Mahomes. But yeah, I mean, it could sound like a good pick. I mean, you think like if I was starting an NFL team, right, and I said I had to go and pick
one player,
what would be the first player I would pick? I would think a quarterback, right?
You'd pick Patrick Mahomes. I don't think it's not even quarterback. You would pick him. You'd pick the guy we're talking about.
Yeah,
like it wouldn't even be a question. So yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then you'd probably pick other quarterbacks that it's just fantasy purposes for points. It's like, I think the whole thing with it for fantasy is that with quarterbacks, like the 25th overall quarterback is not nearly as far away as the 25th overall, like running back or wide receiver from points, right? That's usually kind of the issue. It's like you could get like Kirk Cousins, who's going to be a top 10 quarterback, and you could get him like deep, and it's not really going to hurt your team nearly as much as like if
and you could also draft a quarterback next year or the year after, right? You could
yeah, absolutely. Or that's like I'll probably have 3-4 quarterbacks by the time our draft is done, because you also got to think like you can use them as trade bait too. Like if I can get Brock Purdy super late, I will, because he's in a great system. And if I get a bye week and the 49ers are matched up, why not?
Yep.
So.
All right, Jordan, we're just over an hour. I really appreciate you coming on. We'll definitely have to do this again.
Oh, absolutely. We'll have to do an update on how our dynasty draft went.
And the draft and what happened on that, where we ended up on that November 18th, 19th weekend.
Yeah. We'll see, because I don't have any plans yet.
The big weekend dilemma.
Are you setting up at Mohegan?
No. I mean, I signed up. I didn't sign up for a table. They're sold out. I was put on the wait list over there. But at this point, I'll
Right.
probably go to,
So you're
Gillette
you'll be at Gillette with me.
Card Vault.
It's because
Yeah.
we couldn't get in. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like I feel bad. It's like all those people who like, they made that commitment and stuff, and it's like, oh, and here's this cool ass show at Gillette Stadium that's just gonna fall into your lap. It's like, well, no other vendors are gonna be able to go because
Yeah.
they're either in
They're already
Quincy or
committed somewhere
they're in
else.
Mohegan.
Yeah.
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 So I mean, I guess that works for us in a way, but
Yeah.
yeah. The another thing too with that Mohegan show compared to the Gillette or Quincy is like, and it's cool for people that like that, is the Mohegan show is like a collect con thing. It's not just sports. So like they have all that, the Pokemon and some like clothing and cool stuff like that, which isn't necessarily for me, but I know it's a huge draw for a lot of people. So yeah, maybe it'll be heavy on that with the other shows too. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be cool to see.
All right, kid. Thanks for coming on.
Sounds good. All right. See ya.
All right. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, tell a friend, and spread the word. And until next time, be good to yourselves and everyone around you. Take care, Jordan.
See ya.